I'm going to share with you the punishment that Jorge Prado's body goes through at an MXGP and have a look at some of the things that he does to get his body in peak condition for racing. So if we have a look at this video here from Red Bull Motorsports, they did like a mini documentary for the 2023 season when he went into winning his first World Championship. So first few things to have a look here. For this specific round, he was actually coming off a little bit of sickness. But if we have a look here, you can see him with his shirt off. Obviously, he's very lean. We'll see if they hop back there. He's obviously very lean, okay, and quite light, especially on the 450. So if we just hop back there, since they're not going back there, you can see that he's relatively lean, like really low levels of body fat, but also has a reasonable amount of muscle on him as well. And the reason that the muscle is important is because 450s are quite heavy and obviously very powerful. So the bike might weigh 100 kilos, okay, if not a little bit more. And then he's got his body weight on top of that. So if he's weighing in at, say, 75 kilos, and then he's got the bike at 100, that's 175 kilos that he's got to wrestle around on the track. So you need to be able to have the strength there to be able to do that. So let's have a look here. We'll move through the video and have a look. So here he is just getting ready to go out. Pretty cool to see the amount of fans that MXGP get out to their races. So he is, I would say, like on the smaller side for 450 riders. Like if you look at Jeffrey Hurlings, he's definitely a bigger build. And maybe that's something that he has worked on. If you look at him, and we'll look at some footage later on of him when he was in like 2017, when he was a fair bit younger, he was quite skinny. He's definitely put on a lot of mass and a lot of size since then. And probably more important, since he's riding on the bigger bikes as well. But could probably get a little bit heavier, I reckon. Especially on the 450, like on the 250s, the weight's important because they're riding the bikes at the limit, whereas the 450s aren't ridden at the limit. They're not ridden flat out all the time because they've got so much power. So you can put on a bit more mass. But there you can see, like he's put on definitely a lot more mass over the years, and he is definitely got muscle mass there, which is going to make things easier for him to be able to ride on the bike. So exercises that you can do to be able to build a bit more mass and build strength specifically for the bike is use things like deadlifts and bent over rows and overhead presses. Back squats are great to be able to build strength. So it's all about just trying to close that gap between the strength that you've got and the 175 kilos plus that you've got to wrestle around. So if we have a look when he jumps on the bike or when they have a little bit more riding footage in the sand, you're using your body a lot and you're using all of your body. So if you have a look here, have a look at him. Like he's got his elbows up. If we pause that for a second, right? He's got his legs working really tight, gripping onto the bike and standing up on the pegs and helping to put the bike in position as he goes through all of these braking bumps. But then he's also got a lot of strength in his upper body to be able to keep his elbows up and to be able to look ahead. And that's one of the things that drops for a lot of riders is when they start to get fatigued, they start to sit down more because their legs aren't working properly. Their elbows start to drop because they're getting tired. Their focus starts to go down and they're looking down on the floor in front of them rather than out in front like Prado is here. All of those things you should be doing start to disappear. So that's what the strength helps with, is being able to maintain those positions on the bike all the way through the race. So notice there, look how much work his legs are doing. If we go back there again, let's see if I can slow this down a bit. Look how many times his bum gets up off the seat, right? So he's resting here, rest, pretty easy section here. Then when he gets through these whoops in this next session, let's have a look. Okay, so 1, 2, uses the bounce, 3, probably 4 there, maybe 5. Like his legs are helping to be able to keep the back end pushed into the ground. And that doesn't happen naturally. Like, yes, you can be more relaxed on the bike. Yes, you need to focus on technique and get your body in the right position. But at the end of the day, even if you're doing all that stuff, your body is still working really, really hard and doing a lot of work to get the bike where you want it to go and to be able to make sure that that back wheel is on the floor, especially through the whoops and like the sandier tracks like this one here. I'm not sure if this is Holland, if I remember them saying before at the start. So it's quite taxing on the body, especially being in the sand. So if we skip forward a little bit, let's have a look. So we got Joel Smets there helping him out, which is cool. Let's have a look what else. So here he's having a chat with the team, just saying that he hasn't been feeling 100% over these couple of days. And one of the things that does happen is when you're at a lighter weight, is you can be more susceptible to getting sick. And not saying that that's the case for him. It could have been just a once-off. He's won 2 world titles in a row since then. So obviously he's doing something right. But one of the things that happen is when you are at a really light body weight and you're pushing your body and training hard and riding hard all the time, is sometimes you need a little bit of extra weight there to be able to help you recover from your training. If you're pushing your body too much and not getting enough food in to support that, then that's when your immune system starts to take a beating. So sometimes being lighter on the bike, sometimes being a little bit heavier on the bike is more beneficial because it allows you to recover from your training, recover from your riding better. And especially on the 450, weight is not so much of a problem because you've got so much power there. You just have to make sure you have the strength there with the weight. You're not just holding extra body fat. So again, like even with doing starts, you need a relatively good level of strength, right? So if you have a look here, like he's got a 450, which is, wide open, about to launch. Naturally, what wants to happen is when you're doing the start, the bike wants to pull you off the back. The bike just wants to take off and you want to fly off the back if you weren't holding on. So all this is tensed and like really working really, really hard. He's got all his core working, his upper back, his elbows, his legs are locked in. Everything there is working ridiculously hard because he knows this bike's about to take off and he doesn't want his body slipping all the way back here and falling off the back of the bike. He wants to be over the top. So all this, again, is strength. And there's no way that you can build that strength with just doing lots of cardio, like lots of running and rowing and swimming. You have to be building strength. And you can either build that level of strength through riding lots. So like for Jorge, if going riding all the time, if that's what you do for a living, you're going to build a lot of strength there, even though he does go to the gym and lift weights as well. But if you're only riding once a week, then you really got to get in the gym and be lifting weights and getting yourself stronger so that you can get out there and ride the bike how you want to ride it on the weekend. Something interesting here. So you'll have a look. He's actually having a carb gel. So I'll just go back for you guys so you can have a look again. He's got a carb gel there, and I'll show you the exact carb gel that he's taking. If we just minimize this, I went and found it for you guys. This is the brand, 226's high energy gel. And so what the high energy gel has in it is 50 grams of carbs. So your body runs on carbohydrates when you're out there racing. And so you want to get between 30 to 50 grams of carbs in for every hour of riding. So he's getting 50 grams of carbs in for a 40, 45-minute race that he's about to get out to. That's part of it. That's like the top-up strategy. The other thing that I'd assume he'd be doing, it's not in the video, but with carb loading, you want to make sure that you've got your carb stores topped up before the race even starts. So that's kind of like a top-up, right? It's like the tank's mostly full, but we're just topping it up with the 50 grams carb gel. Before that, though, you want to use complex carbs, like earlier in the morning and the night before. You can use things like sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, to top up your carb stores in your body. And that's like topping up your fuel tank. You're getting your fuel tank like 80% full. This is helping to do the extra 20% to make sure that it's overflowing and ready to rock and roll. So I would assume that in the morning and then the night before, there would be those complex carb sources there to be able to make sure that he's topped up and ready to go. The carb gel brand doesn't matter too much. I just wanted to look it up for you guys so you knew exactly what he was having. The main thing is the carb content. How many grams of carbs are in there? So this one's got 50 grams of carbs, so that's great. If you can look for one that's got that amount in there, just look on the nutrition label. I don't think I have it on there. That'll make sure you're getting enough in. So if we go back here to the video, see what else we can pick up. So there you go, 30 minutes plus 2 laps. So you're probably looking at what, like 35, 40-minute races. Let's have a look. So you can see there, like lots and lots of legs, right? So if we break it back down here, if we go back here, have a look at his legs. We go, slow this down again. Have a look what's happening with his legs. Like there, legs. Like his legs are taking an absolute pounding. Legs. Up and down, up, down, up, down, up, down. There you go, legs, like really wrestling the bike, 100 kilo bike with all the power, wrestling it around. Again, legs, right? and then he gets a bit of a rest as he goes up in the air over the jump before he lands in, I'm sure, more bumps where he'll be using his legs again. So it's really important to make sure that you're getting your legs strong, and whether that's through doing shit tons of riding or through getting in the gym and building strength. It's the only way you're going to be able to wrestle the bike around for half an hour motos, especially in the deep sand. He got a bit lucky in this. I don't like to say lucky, but these two guys ended up crashing or stopping. There was another guy that was in front of him as well. So he was having a rough weekend and probably wasn't performing at his best here. But the cards ended up being dealt in his favour because he won the first moto. So again, so much strength. I know I keep banging on about it, but it's just strength, 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 right? The other component to mention is also the cardio side. So keeping in mind that this moto is 30 minutes plus 2 laps. A long time, right? But there's 2 types of cardio within that. There's one cardio, which is where your body needs to be really good at doing exercise and riding the bike for 35, 40 minutes. But the other part is also, as they're going around the track here, they're not riding at one intensity. Their body is not under the same level of stress all the way through the race. So I'll show you what I mean. That was a ripper on that one. Let's have a look here. So as he goes over this jump, his physically, like in terms of the amount of effort that his body is putting into the riding, is quite minimal. He's not really doing anything. Everything's pretty much weightless at this moment. He's not pushing the bike into the ground. He's not really doing too much. Okay, there's not too much. His body's not being taxed too much at all. Then what happens as he lands, so let's see the next section, goes into bumps. All right, so he's come off that, he's gone over these bumps. So his body's being put under a lot of strain, and he's having to put a lot of effort in. All right, he gets a little bit there, maybe a little bit of a sit down where he gets a quick breather. Then he's got to get up on the pegs because he's got these big rollers or whoops coming up here, where he's really got to work hard, really working hard, really working hard. But then he gets another rest, again, where he just goes over this jump, okay? He just gets a rest. That's his rest break. So notice that as he's going through this 35, 40-minute moto, it's not like being on a cycling bike where you're just doing the same thing for 35, 40 minutes. He's going very hard for short periods of time, like through those sandy whoops. Then he gets a bit of a rest as he goes through the air over a jump. Then he lands and he's got to go really hard again through the sandy whoops. Then he gets a bit of a rest when he went through that sandy corner where he got to sit down for a little bit. Then he gets ready for more whoops or more braking bumps. So the intensity is constantly going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And that's where your interval training comes in. It's getting your body really good at going hard for short periods of time, resting quickly and recovering, and then being able to go hard again. And that's the one that a lot of riders miss. They just focus on the duration of the race, not the actual intensity. And again, there's not much resting happening on this track. Like obviously with hard pack tracks, you could probably say there's a bit more resting. These ones are just lots of work. And he even says that in the interview after. He's like, these races are hard. This one's a ripper. We saw that one before, but that is a ripper. So here he's doing, probably chat a bit about recovery actually here. I didn't even think about that before when I was going through this video. So he's in the tub. I'm assuming that's going to be cold water that he's got in there after the race. So with recovery, your body has what's called the lymphatic system. And what your lymphatic system does is it's responsible for pumping lymph around your body and white blood cells. And so what happens is when you go and train or put your body under a lot of stress where the muscles are working really hard, let's say a motocross race, let's say going to the gym, is those muscles release toxins into that lymphatic system. And when those toxins are released into that lymphatic system, what happens is your body starts to swell and become more rigid and become more stiff. And so you get that feeling of like not being able to move as well. It's like a swelling within your body, feel stiff and rigid. And so what you need to be able to get rid of that is you need the lymphatic system working and pumping in the white blood cells and lymph to be able to flush out all the toxins, flush in the good stuff so that you can recover and be able to feel good and get ready for the next race or get ready for the next day of racing or get back to training the next day. Now, the lymphatic system only works with muscular contraction. So what that means is your muscles have to be moving and doing something for that lymphatic system and that lymph and those white blood cells to be moving around in your body. The worst thing that you can do after a ride or after a race is just go and sit down and do nothing. Because what happens is your muscles aren't contracting and aren't moving. And so that lymphatic system doesn't work as well. And that's where you see riders that come in after a race and they just sit in their tent for an hour, which is what I did when I was racing. And then you've got riders that will have time off after a race, which is also what I did, where I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to go to the gym, I'm not going to go and train because I feel sore. And then what happens is your body actually starts to feel worse. You start to feel more stiff and more rigid because those toxins are building up and they're not being flushed out. So the way that you flush them out is by getting your body moving. So you can use things like just going for a walk or going for a mountain bike ride. What we do with our guys in the faster lap system is we still get them to train and go to the gym. We just get them to knock back their weights, knock back the intensity. So we want that lymphatic system working. We don't want to be flogging the shit out of your body. But at the same time, we don't want to be just doing nothing and making things worse. The other thing that you can do is like hot and cold contrast, similar to what Jorge is doing here, is where you can use hot and cold contrast therapy. So you can do hot and cold showers, you can do plunge like this. Here you can adjust that one. It's a pretty fancy one. So you could adjust it between hot and cold. What this does is like creates an artificial pump for that lymphatic system. Because when things go cold, they contract. When things are warm, they expand. So we can get that lymphatic system working by doing hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Whether that's in a shower or if you've got a big setup like this, you can do it in the bath or in the tub. You could do, say, 30 seconds cold, a minute and a half warm, and do that for 3, 4, 5 rounds to help with recovery. Also helps, like being in the water here, just helps when you're in the water, it helps you to feel weightless. There's no gravity there. So it just helps to take the load off your body and probably helped him a lot, especially being sick for this weekend, to recover and make sure he was good to go for the second moto. Skip through a little bit here. Obviously, he's getting water in. Hydration is really, really important. One of the things I mentioned with water, like you can't see what he's got in his bottle there, but obviously it's labelled, so there's probably something in there that's not in that bottle for every other person that's in the team, like team managers and mechanics and all that sort of stuff. So water is important for race day. But the other thing that's important is making sure that you're replacing electrolytes and being able to replace sodium and salts in your body, which you get rid of when you're sweating a lot. So for him, if he's been a bit sick and he's riding on a sand track and he's had really tough races, probably really sweating a lot, he's losing a lot of electrolytes. And so it's really important to be able to replace them. So in that drink, there could be a few things. There'll be water to help hydrate, but water on its own won't hydrate you if the electrolytes aren't there. The electrolytes help you to retain the water and hold on to it. So there's probably an electrolyte mix in there, and then there could also be a carb mix in there as well to help replace the carbohydrates that he's lost to make sure that he's ready to go for Moto 2. Joel Smet's giving him a pat on the head, telling him he's done a good job even though he feels cooked. So let's have a look here. See if there's anything else that we can pick up. Again, like very physical, isn't it? Especially like in the sand here. It's ridiculous how much the body's going through. Body's just smashing through carbs. So if you're a motocross racer and you're doing half an hour races, you want to make sure that you're dialing in your carbs and you've got them there ready to go and you're having the gel exactly like Jorge is. That's what we do with our riders as well. We get them to have a gel, or for our enduro guys, we get them to put Powerade mixes in their Camelback, which is sometimes a little bit easier. So we'll go through here. Red Bull. Now, as you can see here, you can see with the Red Bull, it's already open. More than likely, it's probably an empty can. And he's not actually drinking a Red Bull afterwards. He's just using it because he's about to go on the podium now. The reason you wouldn't have a Red Bull after a race is because Red Bull's full of caffeine, which is a stimulant. Okay, it helps to wake you up and get you going. When you're finished a race, you want to do the opposite. You want your body to wind down, relax, and start recovering. So you could use a Red Bull like before the race. I don't think he does. I haven't seen him have it. He just had the carb gel. Caffeine's a hit and miss thing. Sometimes you might need caffeine. Like sometimes if you're really low on energy and you're not feeling good, maybe if you're sick, like even for him, maybe it could have been a great option to have caffeine before the race, and maybe he did have a Red Bull. Obviously, they don't show everything. But sometimes it hypes you up too much. If you're already like really anxious and stressed and nervous about the race inside and you've been thinking about it all the time, you probably don't need any more hyping up. So you just need the carb gel, which is the actual energy you're going to use, rather than a stimulant. I think he finished up second there, which is a pretty good effort for being sick. let's have a look. So that's that. The other thing I wanted to show you guys, obviously we looked at the gels. I was trying to find his body weight for you guys to see where he was at. This is the only data that I could find. So it says that he's at 145 pounds, which is about 65 kilos. I feel like he's a bit heavier than that now. And that might be old numbers. Might be back from, if we have a look at this video here, might be back from these days. Let's see if we can see him. There we go. You can see him when he's pretty skinny there. So I would say he's probably a little bit heavier now. But again, like weight on a 450 and on these bigger bikes, you can get heavier. You can afford to get heavier. As long as you're getting heavier and you're putting on a bit of muscle and you're actually getting yourself stronger. Because the amount of G-force, you're probably getting maybe like 1 or 2 G-force that you're dealing with out on the track. Plus you've got all the weight of the bike. So you've got, your 100 kilo bike plus your weight on top of that. Plus you've got the G-force of the bike that you're dealing with as well. It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of force on your body. The stronger you can get yourself, the lighter you can get the bike to feel. The lighter you can get the bike to feel, the less energy you're going to use when you ride, the easier it's going to be for you to be able to hold those positions when you're racing. I tried to also do a bit of research on the training side for you guys to see what he's up to, but there's not much recent stuff. This is from 2017, which is obviously quite old, and he looks like he's very young there. So, which he probably was. So one of the things they address in this video is actually getting him stronger, because the trainer was saying that he needs to get a bit stronger and to be able to wrestle the bike around. So you can see him there weight training. This is from as young as he is. I don't know how old. Let's have a look how old he is now. So 2001. So he's 23. 23 now, is that right? Yep. So he'd be 23 now. So 2017, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, that would have been 7 years ago, so take 5. Okay, so he would have been 16. If my maths is correct, he would have been 16 here. So obviously he's gone through the changes of life, but he's put a fair bit of effort into his training.
I think Jorge is very
getting himself a bit bigger, putting on a bit.
Very skilled, but physically he can improve.
Lo tenemos todo muy bien planificado, así que todo lo que hacemos tiene un
So he talks about like everything having a purpose with his training. If you have a look what he says there, he talks about everything having a purpose with his training. And that's really important as well. A lot of riders will go into their training and just make it up. They'll just go into the gym and go, oh, I'm doing gym stuff to help with riding, and they've got no plan. They've got no idea what he's doing. Obviously, you can see here for Jorge, he knows exactly what he's doing. The sets, the reps, the weights. He's got a trainer there with him. He knows exactly what he's doing. So you don't necessarily have to have a trainer following you around, a nutritionist following you around, but you do need to have a program or something specific to help you with your racing. You can't just grab like a bodybuilding program or a general population program and get at it and expect to perform on the bike, because the demands that you go through on the bike are very different to the demands of someone who just wants to lose a bit of weight and go and do some shopping on the weekend. So there you can see he's not shy with the weights and getting stuck into it. And obviously you can see from his frame that we saw at the start of the video, he has put on a fair bit of mass since then, which has obviously made it a bit easier to be able to ride the bike and wrestle it around. So there's some insights there. I thought there's a fair bit there to unpack, which is pretty cool. If you'd like some help with some of this stuff with some of your own training, we have a small group of riders that we're going to be getting ready for racing and getting them race fit, dialing in all of the off-the-bike stuff, all of the nutrition, the training, the cardio, making sure that that's all mapped out for everyone. If you are interested, you can apply for our Faster Laps program below. I'll put the link in the description or in the comments for you. Otherwise, hopefully you got some great insights from this video.